Hello lovely people! This Tuesday my wonderful wife and I celebrated our 3-year anniversary.
I lose my breath whenever I see you. You stole my heart, what is it that you do? My life was great till you added color.
What, you didn't think there would be a Tuesday montage? Trust me, I have more where that came from. We actually have an entire Instagram dedicated to our love. It's called Jessie and Claude. Follow if you enjoy adorable and occasionally even quite cheesy lesbians. I say occasionally, but we met in 2014, the year that same-sex marriage, which by the way is just called marriage, became legal. But this video isn't actually about marriage equality in that sense, although here's another wedding photo. No, today I'm actually going to tell you about how I was made to choose between marrying the woman I love or half of my income, because as a disabled person, I was penalised for getting married. Because apparently disabled people don't count as full humans in their own right. We're just meant to be other people's burdens. Subscribe if you too enjoy getting angry at the government, because I have a lot of polite British rage and I need to smile scream my way through it. I should preface this video by saying that I'm both very British and very privileged, obviously. I was able to marry the love of my life despite us both being women. We weren't shunned or arrested when we came out, and I've never been in fear of my life from homophobic idiots. Because, let's be honest here, homophobia is merely a lack of information and education. We're not coming for you homophobes, relax. I'm also very privileged, as you'll find out at the end of my story, because I didn't then subsequently starve to death. Spoiler, I'm still alive. I met Claudia a week before I graduated from university. In fact, we had our second date the night before my graduation ceremony. I already knew that I liked her so much. Going for that date with her was more important than resting up for the next day or curling my hair for the ceremony. It was obvious that there was something special and electric about her, and our connection had just made my heart clench every time I thought of her and caught the breath in my throat when she was nearby. Throughout my final year of university, which I had been doing part-time so I could manage my disability and poor health better, I'd been working for a local TV station that was just setting up in my city. It wasn't a lot of work, just kind of doing the odd filming or presenting job here and there for news segments that would then go out online and act as kind of tasters of the programmes to come. The station planned to go live about a month after my graduation, and they'd offered me a guaranteed job with them, which was amazing. I was leaving university and walking straight into a media job that I really wanted. I've always wanted to go into broadcasting, whether that be in front or behind of the camera, preferably both. I love creating stories in a really kind of visual format, hi YouTube, whether that's fiction or documentary. I mean, I'm working on becoming the next Lucy Worsley. I just can't tell you anything yet. Wow, that is such a niche reference. Please tell me if you're also a Lucy Worsley fan so I don't feel like a loner. Anyway, I knew I didn't have all the skills yet. I wanted to get better at editing and filming and timing and presenting, obviously. And I loved the idea of being out in the workforce, having work friends, having a place that I went to every day and did work. Since getting ill as a teenager, I had kind of just assumed that I wasn't ever going to be an option for me. And to be fair, at one point I thought that living wasn't going to be an option for me. So the TV station, it was really small and really underfunded, but I knew that it was a great starting point. They were also really flexible and didn't mind when I said I could only work part-time. They also didn't pay me, which was not excellent. So I went from being a student with a student maintenance loan, which is the thing that pays for your food and your rent while you're a student, but you then have to pay it back with interest, and a maintenance grant, which is money you don't have to pay back because the government realised that not all of us start on a level playing field, and those of us who have further to run up the hill need better shoes. Being a disabled student, is even more expensive than the normal financial drain that is further education. I wasn't paid for my work at the TV station for the first 4 months, I think, and my only source of income was my disability allowance, which I had been receiving since I was 17 and was, I think at that time, about £250 for the care side and £350 for mobility. So that's about £600 altogether, and my rent was £500 a month, so I had £25 a week. for food, bills including council tax, and disabled body maintenance stuff including caffeine and toiletries, which I get through really quickly and you don't need to know why. Let's just take a moment to point out that the food I needed to buy, as someone on a medically restricted diet that mainly involves protein, it's really expensive. I still had money left over from my student loan and grants that kind of kept me going for a while, but I had to cut out a lot of things, including my physiotherapy sessions that cost I think around £60 a week. And yes, you don't get physiotherapy on the NHS when you have a long-term health condition. Joy. I sound royal, but please don't assume my parents paid for everything. Thank you. And I know that there are a lot of people who do a lot with far less, and they are amazing humans, but I wasn't on top of things and I couldn't be. It's not really possible to meal plan when you're unable to get off the floor for half the day and not entirely sure what day it is anyway. Honestly, I'm filming this and I have no idea what day or time it is. I also had the hurdle of being not very able to walk great distances and thus struggling with public transport. So I tended to take taxis to work, and unfortunately, taxis are really expensive. Shocker. The taxi thing though, it seems like such a luxury to some people, and I completely understand that. But at the time, I didn't have a full-time carer, I didn't have a partner, I didn't have someone with me 24/7. And you can say, oh, Jessica, you seem fine and rational now. I do, because I don't film when I'm not doing well. But I do still have to live. Looks can be deceiving, my voice is deceiving, my ability to list the kings of England is deceiving. I have chronic fatigue, a broken body and brain damage. I'm not great at looking after myself. I would get hungry, realise I hadn't eaten in 12 hours, use the bus to somehow wander to a shop, but be so exhausted by the time I got there that I could not remember why I was there, or what was going on, or why my feet hurt so damn much. So I'd get upset, which was not helpful. And I'd have to get myself a Diet Coke, which does help, and sit down for a bit until I could pull myself together, and then walk around the shop and kind of collect random but cheap things. And by the time I got to the till, I would be drained and my feet would have turned inwards and be purple, and I'd be in terrible pain, and I'd know that getting the bus right back was the right thing to do, but I just couldn't do that to myself. So I'd call a taxi. My, what a luxury. But then Claudia started to come into my life more, and she, along with a friend, helped me to set up housing benefit, where the government helps you to pay for your rent. And I think they covered £350 of the 500. So I only had to pay £150 a month for my rent. I also started to get paid by the TV company, the grand total of £500 a month, which probably worked out to about £3 an hour. Yeah. I was rolling in the dough. To substitute my earnings, I was signed up to a program called ESA, Employment Support Allowance. This is an out-of-work benefit for people who are too ill or disabled to be in work. There are two groups you can be classified into. One where you're expected to be looking for a job, and one where they just assume you'll never be able to have a job ever. I was classed into the second group, which was a relief because otherwise I had to attend classes at my local job centre and show that every day I had actively tried to get a job by emailing companies, handing in my CV, or going door to door and asking for work, which... What even? You already know the person is ill. Why are you expecting them to also be able to be using all of their energy searching for a job that they won't be able to handle, and you know they won't because you already put them on the benefit in the first place? The government is full of painful and gaping loopholes. In order to receive my ESA allowance of £480 a month, I was encouraged to take on a part-time job, but told I wasn't allowed to work more than, I think, 16 hours a week or to earn more than £500 a month. After these changes and my bills, I probably had £150 a week, which made me feel rather flush and very fancy. But to be fair, everything feels amazing after living on £25 a week. It's not hard to feel rich after that. The only problem was, these benefits were all conditional on my remaining single. Were I to move in with someone officially or even have a person in my life for a period of time, I think it's like a year, then I would be classed as no longer single and lose all of these new benefits. Why, you may ask? Oh, well, capitalism is inherently ableist. When people who do not rely on benefits, and can we just point out that disability benefits exist because being disabled is actually really bloody expensive, and that's why part of the British disability benefit is not means tested, because you could be a millionaire, but you're still going to encounter costs that are forced upon you by an unequal society, and it is only right that the balance is redressed. When people who do not rely on government benefits get married, they often qualify for new and positive things, like tax breaks, lower car insurance premiums, healthcare savings, the ability to speak for each other in legal situations. Genuinely, one of my cousins got married because she had a car crash and then realised that, wow, her boyfriend of 15-something years wasn't actually allowed to talk to the doctors. However, when disabled people get married, they are faced with losing life-saving resources. And this stretches all the way back to the eugenics movement. Oh yes, I'm taking it there. Between the 1920s and the 70s in America, more than 60,000 people with disabilities were forcibly sterilised in the attempt to gradually rid the gene pool of traits that were considered undesirable. The 1927 Supreme Court decision upholding sterilisation, Buck v. Bell, has never actually been formally overturned. Oh yes, that's still happening! Courts in some states continue to accept requests from guardians of people with disabilities for their sterilisation. Supplemental Security Income, SSI, a federal program meant for Americans with disabilities with limited resources or over the age of 65, is only available to couples with $3,000 or less in assets. And that is a cap that was set in 1989, 30 years ago, and has not risen with inflation. You could probably buy a house for that back then. Okay, I don't actually know that much about the American property market in regards to real estate and inflation, but I do know for sure that £3,000 is not as much now as it was then. And, fun fact, if two people receiving SSI were to get married, their benefits would be reduced by 25% because people are less disabled when they have someone else to be disabled with, I suppose. Obviously, as I'm from the UK, I don't know that much about the American benefit system, but in researching it for this video, I was shocked to learn about the Disabled Adult Child Programme, which is apparently linked to your parents' work history and entirely disappears upon marriage. Wait, what, why? Because you were your parents' burden before, and now you're seemingly someone else's, or just not disabled anymore? Why so stupid, programme? Why? But if you think that's bad, the Office of Inspector General and Social Security Administration can determine that a cohabiting couple is holding out to the community as though they are married, i.e. acting like a couple, and then strip them of their benefits anyway. So you don't even have to get married to lose everything. You just have to act as if you genuinely like each other. Quick, stage a fake fight in public so no one thinks you're acting like you're actually married. Oh no, wait, married couples can do that too. Never mind. Look, financial independence is important. I don't want to ask my wife for pocket money for the rest of my life. I'm not a 12-year-old. I want to be an equal part of the relationship, and I want to be able to make my own money, feed myself, and not feel like I'm just a burden on everyone around. Living with a disability is incredibly expensive, which is why many disabled people rely on welfare programs. However, to qualify for those welfare programs, people must remain living in poverty. If you make just a little money over that cap, then you fall into this grey area of making too much to be helped for free, but not actually enough to pay for the help yourself. The disabled community has an unemployment rate of 80%. It is utterly and patently ridiculous to include a partner's income into our own. And why is it a terrible idea to boil a person down to their financial contribution to society and assume that the non-disabled people in their life are capable, both emotionally and practically, of caring for another adult? Well, currently half the disabled people are abused by a partner or family member, so clearly it's not a great idea. When you make someone who likely already has problems leaving the house independently financially dependent on another person, you are cutting off their only chance of escape should things go wrong. You're also bringing the incredibly awkward element into the relationship that is dependency. When a non-disabled person marries someone with a disability, they have to consider not only if they love us or not, but also whether they're just up to the financial and emotional challenge of having to provide for someone else. We all have baggage, but some bags are elephant-sized trunks. So, back to my story though. In Rome, on my 26th birthday, 4 months after meeting her, Claudia proposed to me as we watched the sun set over the Colosseum. Did my financial situation make me think twice about saying yes to her? No, did it help? Of course not. I cried and I was too overwhelmed to even say yes, so I just nodded a lot and we kissed, and I thought I was gonna die from happiness. Because like I said, I have the overwhelming privilege of my soulmate being someone who not only makes enough money to support 2 adults, but also is a wonderful human being who I knew would never use that against me. I knew I was safe with her. By the time the wedding came around, my job at the TV station had ended due to creative differences, more commonly known as "you overwork me and don't pay me." But but it wasn't fully my choice, so. And then came the most wonderful day of my life, September the 3rd, 2016. Beforehand, we used to be very dismissive of people who said that their wedding day was the best day of their life. And I'd just like to say that the day I met Claudia was actually the best day of my life, but our wedding day was also pretty fabulous because it was the start of our marriage, and honestly, being married to Claudia is the best thing that I've ever experienced. Since we were now married, I was cut off from my ESA, that's the benefit for being too disabled to have a job, plus any help with housing had already gone, and I was back to just my disability allowance of £600 a month, but minus the mobility component now, so it was £250 a month to live on. But this time, I had Claudia taking care of paying bills and buying food and also driving me places. Hey, thank God for that. I also lost access to free prescriptions because Claudia made above the minimum wage, and that has absolutely nothing to do with how much medication I take daily to survive, but sure. But what if she hadn't been able to make enough money by herself to cover the two of us? Well then, not only would we have not been able to get married, we wouldn't have been able to even live together. We would have had to make the choice between being able to eat and being with the person we love. And side note, we're kind of addicted to each other. It's a choice that people are forced to make every day. And not just disabled people. Families who live below the poverty line are often forced to live separately or else be unable to feed their children. And how is that in the best interests of anyone? I spoke earlier about dependency, and it's not just the big domestic abuse angle that you have to look at, but also little things too. I have many times had to face the uncomfortable situation of being out for dinner with Claudia's friends or family, and everyone pulls out their card to pay, and she has to cover me, and everyone's kind of aware that I can't actually pay for myself, or having to ask for money to buy socks even. I'm a freaking adult. Stupid capitalism. It cuts you up inside. But then, slowly and very quickly, my YouTube channel took off, and now I make my own money, and I can buy socks whenever I want, and treat my wife to lovely dinners, and pay for my own medication, and not have to panic that at any moment the government are going to come and tell me off and cut away the money that is keeping me alive. Every ad that you watch on my videos, every merch item purchased, every coffee donation, everyone signed up to the Kellgren-Fozard Club, and I am especially grateful to you for providing me with a regular monthly income, helps me to be my own independent person. And it is hard to talk about money when you're British, so this whole video has been very challenging for me. And it is also difficult to talk about money on the internet when you make your money through the internet. But please know that I am so incredibly grateful to all of you. Thank you for helping me to live my happy life to the best of my ability. Please share your own stories and what the situation is like in your country in the comments below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I shall see you in my next video. Thank you again.